Fortnite Battle Royale is a game that is near and dear to most of our hearts, with its release being all the way back in 2017, which means that the people born in that year are now in elementary school. To give you some more perspective, that was when the fidget spinners were a thing, the cringy dab was a worldwide meme, and Yeet was at its prime, and of course Rainbow Six Siege was still a good game. But putting all that aside, how is Fortnite nowadays? Now that the pink layered glasses have come off, it's time to unravel the true experience that the game has to offer. Is it a ridiculously stingy game solely relying on either insane builds or camping? Yes. Did I just spoil the video? No. Or maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But what I do know is that throughout the entire 100 drops in this video, you will be witnessing some of the highest of highs and, trust me, some of the lowest of lows. And hopefully you will ultimately enjoy this experience as much as I did. Let's get started. Kicking things off, I figured that the best place to start would be the place where I first made my very first shop in this game, which was Dusty Divot. Not that you knew that info, but now you do. I managed to snag a couple of chests, which gave me plenty of shields, which didn't do much when I was snagging the first 2 kills of the series. After that, I rotated to Salty to add some more eliminations to my name right before I got jebaited. Game number 2 I was feeling freaky and dropped Tilted, which resulted in a quick first pick on what must be AI. However, don't let that fool you, because unlike this shotgun gunfight, my next is a continuous sequence of people shooting at me. Game number 3, the drop location resembled my mental state, which allowed for some pretty sweet kills and even left that place with not much more success. Game number 4 was the beginning of my descent into madness because this initial kill was the only good thing that happened. Well, I presume that the second one wasn't bad either, but there was no third because I suck. Game number 4, I dropped Lonely Lodge, which was not a half bad drop I might say, with plenty of decent loot and even not stingy players who played this game for 12 hours a day. At least one of them. The other 2 must have been bots. A quick rotation to Tomato Town and I found myself to one of the smellies, who was better at double pumping than me. Game number 6 was actually a huge double my confidence booster since I got plenty of gunfights. 4 on Greasy Grove, which I prevailed victorious, and then 2 on Shifted, and what would have been 3 on Tilted had this man not steal the kill from me. And I would have probably won the game had this not happened. I would simply like to state that this was a sniper kill. And unfortunately, I had too many of those. Game number 7 all the way to 12 were absolute garbage disposals, with only game 10 being a semi-decent 4-kill loss. However, every single setback would only lead to a greater comeback, and that is exactly what happened on game number 13, which had me dropping on Salty once again to start off with a quick kill which snowballed to a quick second, and from there, the carnage began. And even though I had no shields and I was getting constantly attacked, I left with 5 kills under my name. And after a little bit of wandering around, I found myself in this house just shy of Greasy, which had me facing 3 more players one after the other for what must have been the airdrop loot that surrounded the area. And even after a chill llama search and 2 circles later, I was faced with players left and right, yet of course was able to shake off mainly due to the power of the loot I held plus good positioning and decision making. And as the circle closed in further and further with nothing more than small fire from all 3 sides, it eventually happened. And I secured the very first win of this video, and you already know I had to hit him with that copyrighted music at the end. Which obviously I can't show. I wish that I could tell you that all was well after that, and that I had found the momentum needed, but that would turn out to be far from the case, since game 14 was a 0-kill loss. Game 15 a 1-kill loss, but I did manage to turn around a little bit in game 16 with a drop to Anarchy, which sure started off with a cheesy kill, but hey, don't drop in my house, little bro. I quickly followed that up with a bot kill, and since people came at me, pause. All I ask from you is that you don't stare at all those horrendous misses from the LMG, but rather look at the next shotgun smash that happened moments later. Moved for quite some time and snagged 2 kills along the way to Loot Lake, and since all things that go up must go down, I ended the game with a kill trade. Game number 17, I just moved around Tilted again and managed to get 4 kills until I got baited into a trap. At least it wasn't a pickaxe death, unlike game 18. Game 19 wasn't much better since I only got 3 kills and there was pumped to the head. Game 20 was pretty much the same story, only with 2 fewer kills, and with an LMG. Game 21 started with a sexy golden scar and a double kill, but ended, no joke, 2 minutes later with an AR meltdown. Game 22 lasted the whole 60 seconds, and what makes it worse is that the entire time I was dropping, I had to listen to Homer Simpson groan? Game 23 was also a 90-second trade this time because we evolved it. Game 24 I dropped it to an unnamed location next to Retail Row and started off with a bang by getting a double pump and a chug chug, which got swiftly followed by a solid 9-minute timer of me running around, getting a few pop shots and even a kill, and then this. Game 25, first guy I meet, and he was 5 HP. Game 26, I was feeling a little dusty, which in fact was reflective of my loot, but not of my performance. Don't worry, I got shit on. Game 27, and aside from half the lobby shooting at me, I just wanted to say that the tactical is ass. Game 21 was almost looking like a tide shift, not because I had a continuous 2 minutes of people attacking me over and over and even stealing my kills, but because I emerged victorious from that outcome. Almost. The beginning of Game 29 was a subtle telltale for my inner peace, and then of course Game 30 and 31 were failures, with Game 32 and 33 being less, but still failures. Now please, I know that this may look bad considering that I have gotten absolutely violated. However, I promise that there are some downright bangers that will pass your eyesight in today's video. Moving along, however, to Game 34, we're dropping Salty once again, and start off with a nice pick on a guy who dropped in the same house as me. Follow that up with a drum gun meltdown, and then I moved up to Dusted Divot where I got another 2, but was short-lived on the 3rd due to a bad start with my health and the fact that I had 2 people on me at the same time. Game 35 we started in Dusty instead of rotating to it, and we got 2 nice pops, however the golden scar melt was too surreal. Game 36 I dropped Tilted where I got immediately picked and bagged, so surely we won't make the same mistake dropping into Tilted again. Right? Game 38 was a salty... I dropped Salty one too many times, and had a decent start with RPGs, 4-4, and even managed to get a couple of kills. However, we all know that my job location was a very popular job and rotation spot, so it was inevitable that I would lose to one of the well-known Smellies with a sniper. Let the sniper counter go up by a point. Thank you very much, editor. Here is where we make another one of those jumps in games, since game 39 all the way to 42 were disasters, with a collective 3 kills throughout 4 games. However, the comeback is great in game 43. Not with a win, but at least with kills, considering I dropped into prison and found myself honestly kind of crappy loot. I was able to kill farm some AI, and maybe one of the 3 were actually a player, however the other 2 were definitely not. From there, I took a rift and went to another unnamed location which held an op who was no more. And here we reached Lonely Lodge once more to go to the big tower. Boy, what a huge mistake that was. Why? Well, after the first sniper shot which went out by me in a top 9 scenario, I would somehow find myself battling a total of 6 players, and let's just count them together. We start off with our first player who rifted to my location, along with a second one firing back with a sniper. Upon killing him, we can hear another sniper, and if you paid close enough attention, you will notice the direction it came from, which was nearly impossible to travel from the first sniper, so that adds up to 3. Then we have another player flying below me to round up to 4, and then another flying in with the rift, and then finally another sniper northwest, ending in a total of 6 out of 9 players. I am not going to risk getting copyright striked by playing the song Get Off My D, but would y'all please get off my D? Like damn. And of course the game would end up with me packing up the dude that fell below only to get sniped from the rear by one of the snipers. At least I suppose the BS sniper kill counter can go up again. Game 44, and I was a lot more chill this time, dropping Shifted and getting a fabulous Chug Chug and a decent set of weapons, and started by getting a free bot kill. Follow that up with a decent player and ended on a 1 HP kill. And somehow I still got sniped by a bush camper. Game 45 was just gonna skip because I got shit on. Game 46 was a juicer with another Dusty. I also dropped Dusty a lot. And we started with 3 nice back-to-back kills, and just before rotating to Tomato, I killed another one. Next to Tomato, I sat for a lot of circle cycles in this little cabin and even killed an unsuspecting player. Eventually though, I had to take the Rift, which had me dropping on top of John Wick's face and adding another kill to my name. Not even 30 seconds later, I found myself in between people, so I started by killing and then healing. Since the circle was pretty fair and somewhat predictable, I was able to camp out behind this tree, which of course had another one. Game 47 started with a fatal fields drop, and with an early kill and 7 HP to my name. A quick launchpad escape later, and I started rebuilding everything back up, with first some shields and later some apples, after I killed another player, flying through next to Salty to kill off a dude that with that ever so smooth scar. From here, I was led to Anarchy, which is ironic considering my drop location, but as soon as I dropped in, I put another 2 kills under my name, and immediately after, I killed another. I just wanted to say that while I was putting this big pot, I was only feeling a sniper shot at this point, which thank goodness never came. But hey, after seeing what I've experienced, would you blame me? Regardless, while shielding up, gunshots could be heard close to me, and I immediately took off to finish the last player from that fight with a single pump to the head. Unfortunately, that will be where the good news ended, since from here on out, the rest of the game I just rotated zone and only made small fire, which indirectly led me to running on top of someone I had no idea was there and then died. Game 48 started with some nice music, which must be copyrighted. Then y'all already know we're dropping Salty, which had me kinda panicking with all the fart bombs being thrown at me, and the first kill of the match starts with a heart attack, but I still got the dub. Follow that up with a quick bot kill, and I must admit that this game was kinda chaotic, from all players being not super aggressive but definitely present, to the fact that I held a guided launcher, which never ended well either for me or for my opponents. And of course, always having heartbreaking moments of being pressed. You already know I was a 1 HP again. Bot farming and such, and before you know it, I left Salty with 6 kills to my name. And after dropping next to Salty, because I was getting shot at and I didn't want to get eliminated mid-air, I found a slurp juice that was about exactly what I needed to recoup, and I left as soon as I could. Encountering people in the middle of nowhere and swapped my purple LMG for a blue drum gun is still a decision I am not fully sure was the correct one to this day. Top 6 with 7 kills, and this was looking like quite a match. While rotating to zone, some guy who got lasered came in from the back, and thank goodness people fought because we were now in a top 3 with a sniper that could at least hit body shots. Here, in this house, I booby-trapped the shit out of it and remained still for as long as I could, considering that both of them were soon enough on the same house as me, as I let them battle it out because I was done being the one to stand in the middle of everything, and as soon as one died, I made my move. We were both low. What the heck. I had the RPG with me, so it was all good. You know, since we got another dub, I think you realize what the trend is. Now, we were facing devastating losses for game 49 and 50, which I did get outplayed, but of course you already know that they killed me with a sniper, or did the majority of damage. 2 points up for the snipers, please. Actually, one of them didn't kill me. He just left me low and then ended it, so that will be 1.5 points. Game 51, and we get what appears to be a decent game that starts by a classic drop in Tilted, and upon reviewing the footage, I didn't have a single gunfight until I climbed the second highest building in the game, where I then started heading over to Shifty, where I fight 2 people, and one gets stolen by a sniper, because of course it would. After a handful of missed shots on both parties, I take a rift and head on top of the mountain in the middle of the map, only to find someone's camping inside, which of course I immediately took care of. The zone is closing in, so I head out towards Fatal Fields, and as I'm writing this script, I realize how much I suck with a sniper and that I have to drop it. Clearly, I didn't do that in the game, which I had the chance by killing this guy camping in a barn, and since everything is like clockwork at this point, which means that I wait in the zone for a prolonged period of time, only to then find myself in some sort of cringe bullshit. Multiple people shooting at yours truly. Though this time I must admit, I wasn't the one being harassed. However, that wouldn't mean that I wouldn't face this. Yup. In case you didn't catch that, that was my opponent shooting at me right before I got the finishing bullet into the trap set by the guy shooting the RPGs. Like, you just can't make that up. Here, however, is where everything starts to shine once more. As clearly indicated, my capability as a solo player has some of its limits clearly exposed. For example, not being able to fight off 6 people continually facing me is one of the more obvious examples I could make. So what would happen if I brought in some help? Introducing Dinosaur, which will be the test subject friend number 1, who would join me to get the footage we didn't deserve, but rather needed. Starting off, with game 52. Oh well, that must have been the warm-up game. On to game 53. Oh well, maybe that was a fluke. What about game 54? No? 55? 56? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here, I was hoping that this man who averages 35 hours of Fortnite a day will be able to assist me. Well, why not just move to game 57 and forget everything that just happened? Which has us starting over at retail, where we aggressively chased people and managed to snag 5, even with continually low HP, prior to Dinosaur downing. And yes, I'll call him Dinosaur, because I don't know what else to call him. After waiting a bit for players to depart, I grabbed his car and rotated to the nearest reboot van, where I found 1 or 2 bots to add to the kill list, reviving and then quickly running over to Fatal to start upgrading our loot with blood. And then headed for high ground, which already had a team there that was really easy to take out. Immediately after though, we were ambushed by not 1, but 2 duos, where we managed to kill 1 and barely left alive with me dying. Don't worry though, because the homie was able to pull a John Wick maneuver and grabbed my card and revived me while in the storm, and somehow we had high ground yet again. Even though I didn't have any guns aside from a blue rocket launcher and the old trusty grey pistol, I was at least decked out with ammo. From here, the rest of the game is sheer cinema. The high ground we held was no longer in the zone, and naturally we had to leave. During the chaos we split and couldn't just go near each other, because one was getting harassed by a player and the other with a rocket launcher. Luckily, I was able to find the open spot between rounds and left in a hurry. Not that guided missiles were helping either. Here, as the zone closed in on us, I find a green tactical and a player trying to escape the zone same as I, where after a couple of seconds got knocked down and I quickly went in for the thirst, getting a slight upgrade towards my weapons. However, while all that was happening, our friend, who'll be nicknaming Pueblo, because this is my video, got knocked, and you can hear while I'm reviving the gunshots of the other dudes fighting. Well, I also thirsted this guy prior to the revive, but it's not important. And now, ladies and gents, we're in a 2v1 scenario, which of course we didn't sell, ending with a nice 15 kills collectively. So following tradition, we didn't get ridiculously violated in game 58, with an aggressive start over at Pleasant Park and even a couple of gunfights at Shifty, before getting overpowered by the smellies. Game 59, we don't talk about it, because the entire lobby decided to jump into this one house. Game 60, I knew was going to go well, simply because we were both hitting the worm, and the super good start at Tilted, and the follow-up at the factory over at Bridge Lake, and since naturally due to the zone, we were going back into Tilted, we found 2 more unsuspecting people that were simply added to the kill collection. Fast forward a little later, and we were somehow, and by somehow, obviously, among the center of attention due to our positioning. As the players racked up to kill us, so did our eliminations, and with the storm growing ever so powerful and closer to us, everyone had to dial in. Naturally, you will see one here sniping with a scoped rifle, and me with an RPG. And since everyone had to push in at us while fighting each other, we were simply there to deliver the finishing blows. And after almost giving high ground to the last player, Pueblo added the last soul, and that would mark our second highest kill win of the video. For game 61, 62, and 63, we stayed true to getting shit on after winning. Now, since I had already 100%ed the amount of players I introduced, I thought, why not do it again? At this point, I'm not entirely sure whether I'm playing Fortnite or double it and give it to the next person, but nonetheless, in game 64, we got 2 more of the homies, and of course we would start off with a bang. Just not the way you'd think. Game 65 was a slightly prolonged snooze fest, and the actual game starts at Game 66 with yet a hot drop in Tilted, with the homie Pueblo establishing dominance and territory over AI, which they will remember when they take over the world. Took out the final squad that rotated into Tilted and then left towards Dusty, where we would get... I can't say that, but it'll put the screen of what happened. Game 6... was a burger job that had us, and by us, I mean the homies, started with a nice 4-kill entry, and we departed with the utmost cunning way possible. Rocket riding. Carrying over to the Shifty fight makes me realize just how much of a bot team we are at times, and what makes this worse, considering that we won the fight, is that our enemies were worse. Like, that's just crazy. Nevertheless, you can always count on a third party to come over and destroy things. And things they destroyed. But I still managed to clutch up with only 2 HP on my name. Follow that up with a reboot, and on our way we are to Fatal Fields. They had us fighting a couple of squads from all directions at a final top 15 scenario. To not bore you with the details, we were adamant that we would not overextend, and as a result we mostly stayed in the central house while everyone tried to chip us down. They didn't, and due to the zones moving, so did everyone. And through our series of events that consist of a lot of back and forth between squads, some mispointed plays by the ops, and a lot of RPG shooting, we find ourselves we cracked the dub with a decent 16 kill game. Now, as tradition has it, we got violated at game 68 and 60. Game 70 we started farming, but ultimately got farmed ourselves. Game 71 though was a true masterclass showcase of what Fortnite is all about. The Worm. We start off at the place well known as Pleasant Park, or perhaps for some of you, Diddy's backyard. Kill a player, and then start farming the life with a double E of these bots. Then get dropped on by an actual squad, start dodging these bullets like I'm in the Matrix. I said dodging, not eating, don't show that. Reviving the homie while downing someone that was miles away, and if that ain't enough, I also downed this solo player that TBH had no idea as to what he was trying to achieve there. And if all that action in a singular sequence ain't enough for you, then we get yet another squad on us, with yours truly downing 2 and damaging the 3rd, all within the confines of being essentially one-shot due to the first homie. Then there's a whole lot of running and flying from the zone to end up in Fatal Field. There is a lot of field action lately, but regardless, like before, only tamer in squads and more wild in terms of weaponry. It's not like we were casualty less, but we did make it through. Fighting at the edge of not only the zone, but the map itself was an exhilarating and unmatched feeling, considering that all I was thinking was the footage I was about to take. While being pinned down here by the ops wasn't very reassuring, however the lads came in from the rear and third party them, which gave us the opportunity to start hammering down on everyone. Till there was one, and then none. This game marked, I believe, the highest kill game in a video, and since I'm not 100% sure of that fact, I'm going to leave it to the editor to do the rest of the work from here. Now, even though games 72 all the way to freaking 81 weren't terrible, they most certainly weren't good. With the highest of highs looking at a fat 6 kill, and with the lowest of lows looking real low. And game 74 not even appearing on my recorded folder of games. Game 82 saw a change of direction, considering we had a very close start of Paradise Palms and through the skies with a disgusting ketchup and mustard glider, all the way through to Salty, and at last, after all the obstacles we encountered, it ended in a top 7 like this. Damn. Games 83 all the way through 86 were toned down lesser versions of this game, and at last, we caught a break over at game 87. Starting at a late drop in this little container facility, and your boy was out here gathering materials cause this vending machine was dropping mad loot, and they did nothing but run around till the end of the game, where we would face some opponents and at last get the dub we didn't deserve but needed. That is because for the next games we would get absolutely destroyed. Forget about mid games, these were downright abysmal. We did have a glimpse of hope in games 91 and 92, but those were short-lived. Game 93 was at least a quick one, just like 94, 95, and 96. Game 97 on the other hand was not, cause I dropped into retail and boogie bombed the first one. Follow that up with an immediate third-party shockwave entry, and then immediately after that I gunned down this poor fellow. Since apparently that wasn't enough, I entered the main building, only to find another poor soul that was ready to take the pistol suppressor up the end. Wandered around for a couple of zones and destroyed this guy on top of the mountain. And since not much else happened, I'll take you to the end of the game where this guy was erased from the lobby, but his unknown soulmate tried to get revenge. Tried. I must say that sitting on top of here and simply dropping nukes from above felt truly cozy, since I knew that I didn't hold the positioning advantage, but also the win in the palm of my hands. Just make sure to hit them with the OG emotes at the end to establish dominance. Game 98, I tried. Game 99, I low-key managed to snag 5 along the way prior to my inevitable demise, and at last we reached game 100. Now naturally, I really wanted to end on a good note and was, according to my memory, incredibly locked in to end it, but unfortunately this would not be the case. By a mile too. Thanks for watching.